State Road 2. Same gravel shoulder I pulled onto back at the start of the summer, first episode I ever made. The wind hasn't changed. The wind out here never changes. But the light has. It's going gold earlier now, that end of summer angle. You can feel fall leaning on the door. The campus, it was going up across this field when I first stood here. It's further along now. A whole summer of work on it. The cranes have moved to the far end of the site, and every superintendent out here is looking at the same shortening days I am and doing the same quiet math. Winter's coming, and winter is when the schedule breaks. When I started this show a few months back, I told you the Buildout was the biggest thing America had built in 70 years. $500 billion. I stood on this exact spot and said that number like it was almost too big to be real. A summer later, that number already looks low. It's past $1 trillion now and climbing, and the towns in the path still mostly don't know what's coming for them. I said at the end of last season, there were 50-some sites on my map, and I'd only been to a handful. Well, the map grew over the summer, and I've got a truck and a full tank. I'm Mason Reed. This is Miles from Nowhere, Season 2, and this season, I drive the map. Let me catch you up, whether you rode along last season or you're just climbing in now. The hyperscale data center build-out, the construction of the buildings that run cloud computing and artificial intelligence, is the largest construction mobilization this country has seen since the interstate highway system. Last year I called it $500 billion in committed spend. The number I'm working with now is north of $1 trillion, active, across more than 100 sites I can actually name and point to on a map. More than 100 sites, 15 states, somewhere around 140,000 construction workers at peak, all in across the whole thing. That's not a forecast, that's the ground, today. Now, here's where I need to draw a line, because it's the whole reason this show exists. You've heard about some of this build-out, but you've heard about the wrong part. When people talk data centers, they talk about two places. Northern Virginia, Data Center Alley, the biggest concentration of data centers on Earth, been there for years. And Texas, the boom, the power, the headlines. Those places are real, and they're enormous, and I'm not here to tell you they don't matter. Virginia's the famous one. Texas has its own thing going, and somebody's already got that one handled. But they get all the ink. And while every reporter in the country was pointed at Virginia, the second wave landed somewhere nobody was looking. It came inland, to the Midwest, to the cornfields and the river towns and the counties you drive through without stopping. And there are real reasons it came here, if you're wondering. Virginia's getting full. The power grid there is straining under what's already built. Land's expensive, so the hyperscalers went looking for what they actually need. Big, flat, cheap parcels, access to power, fiber corridors, and a state government willing to make a deal. And it turns out the Midwest has all four: Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, Missouri, Iowa, Oklahoma, Kentucky. The whole middle of the country lit up. Here's the difference, though, and it's the difference that matters for everything this show is about. Northern Virginia has been doing this for 20 years. It has the workforce, the hotels, the infrastructure, the muscle memory. When a new campus goes up in Loudoun County, the region absorbs it. It's done it 100 times. When a campus that size goes up next to a town of 2,000 people in rural Missouri, a town that has one motel and a gas station and a diner, that town has never done this, not once. Nobody there has muscle memory for absorbing 4,000 construction workers, because nothing like it has ever happened to them. The famous markets have a housing gap they can manage. The second wave has a housing gap that could stop a project cold. Same build-out, completely different problem. And the second one is the one nobody's covering. So that's this season. I'm going to drive the second wave. Missouri, where 2 mega projects are landing in one rural county. Ohio and Kentucky, where the federal government is handing over old nuclear sites. Wait till you hear that one. Wisconsin, Oklahoma, the river towns, region by region. The build-out the coastal press keeps missing, because somebody should be standing in these towns before the cranes show up. Somebody should be doing the math while there's still time to get it right. I stood on State Road 2 at the start of this summer and told you a story about one town that woke up next to a data center. New Carlisle, Indiana, 2,000 people, 4,000 workers. At the time, it felt like a big story. One summer of driving later, I understand it was just the first one. There are 100 more new Carlisles out there, most of them still cornfields, most of them still quiet, most of them a season or two from the morning they wake up and the cranes are there. The coastal build-out is a story about scale. The Midwest build-out is a story about surprise, about places that never saw it coming, getting the hardest version of the problem with the least practice at solving it. That's the story I know how to tell. So I'm going to spend this season telling it, one town at a time, while there's still time for somebody to listen and get ahead of it. I'm Mason Reed. Next time, the next Manhattan Project. The federal government is handing former nuclear sites over to the data center boom, and one of them sits next to a town of 1,800 people. This is Miles from Nowhere. Miles from Nowhere is brought to you by Namche Infrastructure. Namche builds modular, redeployable workforce villages for the build-out this show is about. The inland one, the one landing in towns that were never built to absorb it. Sized for the site, operational before the peak, gone when the project moves on. If you're building in the second wave, that's the market Namche was built for. NamcheInfrastructure.com